Hey everybody, welcome back to Ballistic Banter. Today we are on our 10th episode, so we've been doing this for quite a while, I would say, and I think it's been a fun ride so far. Today we have a bit of a spicy episode for you. Today we're going to be covering the Florida case regarding the Lightning Link cards, and also the FRT triggers, and also the WT triggers, same thing. So boys, how are we doing today?
You know, we're doing good, aside from the current levels of stupidity that has been going on over the last couple of months. Really, since about March, when all this stuff kicked off, it's almost headache inducing.
I'll tell you what, more's coming down the road too. I was watching that ATF hearing with fucking Dettelbach or whatever his name is, and the GOP dude. That thing is gnarly. I sent you the link for that. You need to watch it. So.
I know. I couldn't bring myself to do it because I accidentally clicked on a 10-minute compilation video of Democratic lawmakers knowing nothing about guns at all. And when Jerry Nadler had the audacity to say that the M1 Garand and the SKS are ancient weapons that are not as lethal as the AR-15, I almost threw my phone against
my brother in Christ. That M1 Garand is quite possibly the most lethal rifle in American war history.
Well, the guy from Louisiana literally quoted George S. Patton like the greatest battle implement ever devised, and then that other moron from New York said something stupid. But the SKS comment just killed me because I'm sitting there thinking, if it's a Chinese one, it's got a 25-round box mag and shoots the same cartridge as an AK.
Dude, it's so
what
bad.
do you mean?
You know what, dude? We should cover some of that ATF stuff because that deals with short-barreled rifles and whatnot, and the whole pistol brace shit that's going on right now too. So if we want to throw that in with like the wide-open triggers, the FRTs and lightning links, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
No arguments here. It's amazing that we've gotten to this point where a lot, and I mean a lot, of what you would consider gun policy is basically being written by a third-party bureaucracy that has no legal standing to do it.
Well, here's the people that are actually writing it. Obviously, the director of the ATF, in his own quotations, is not an expert in firearms, so that's something.
As he has said repeatedly.
Yeah, dude, those are his own words, literally line for line, and that's something that they grill him on in that hearing too. I think it was who was it? The dude from Texas or Tennessee, dude. Bad. I'll send you some clips on it. He was grilling him. He's talking about defunding the entire department. I'm one of those Republicans that wants to take down the entire ATF, dude. It was so funny. And he's just sitting there like, dude, bro, if I was him and I was put on the stand like that, dude, I'd probably like tear up, dude. He was getting it bad, which rightfully so.
And I do want to make sure that I make this abundantly clear that my legal understanding of a lot of this is baseline at best. But the way it works is, so the ATF was basically created as an offshoot of the second NFA that was passed in the 80s under Reagan. And the idea is the ATF would basically act as a kind of a supplementary investigation force to something like the FBI, where the FBI was basically geared towards all different types of crime. The ATF's job was specifically to be monitoring, the illegal gun trade, gun trafficking, stuff like that. The problem is over the last 30, 40 years since its inception, the ATF has basically taken even a little bit more of a stronger role, and they're using their ability to interpret some of the current gun laws that are on the books to issue their own rulings. But they're very, very inconsistent. I mean, just look at the whole pistol brace thing. I mean, what was it, 10, 12 years ago? They're like, yeah, no, that's fine. And now, all of a sudden, it's not fine because you knew exactly what people were going to use them for, and you said it was fine anyway.
Exactly. Well, that was in what, 2012? I don't mean to interrupt you,
yes.
But the ruling that they made,
it was 2011 or 2012,
was saying that functionally the pistol brace, one, it helps disabled veterans. That's technically the purpose and the use for it.
Yep.
But two, they said that it doesn't make any sort of difference between like the actual functionality of the gun. So they said they were okay. And now he's backtracking on that and saying, hey, you need to register these rifles with the pistol braces because it makes it more lethal and effective, right? That's one thing that they were trying to grill him for in that hearing, is saying, hey, you can't just go back on your word. How many times has this happened before to where it's just going to make 40 million Americans a felon overnight, right? So
well, and here's the other thing too. This is the other thing that I want people to understand. Like, as much as we love to talk about the ATF and like the shooting your dog memes, Ruby Ridge, Waco, stuff like that. The ATF is not very big. If I remember correctly, based off the last numbers that I looked, the ATF currently, I think it's like 3,500 total employees, agents at most, which effectively means the bulk of their work and enforcement has to be, administered through local municipalities and local police forces to actually act as the enforcement arm, because it's kind of the same problem that the United States government ran into when they created like the Prohibition Bureau in the 1920s when alcohol was outlawed. They had at most 5,000 federal agents to cover the entirety of the United States, and they were incredibly underfunded and practically laughed at because you can't enforce a law if you don't have the backing to do it. I mean, that's just what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to go back to the hearing. That's one thing that he repeatedly, Dettelbach, the director, repeatedly mentions is that they're always partnering with these agencies. The agencies are supposedly asking for more ATF help, getting in those databases for the firearms and stuff like that. But dude, it's pretty crazy the stuff that he was saying. They can track a weapon all the way down to the original FFL that it was sold at. So, I mean, they got some pretty wicked tech. I'm not going to lie.
Who was it?
Whether or not they're using it right is the question.
Or if you're an ATF agent taking pictures of people's personal information from those 4473s, then
was it the state of Missouri? Which state was it that basically said that the ATF asked for like these logbooks of like concealed carry permits and whatnot, and they basically told them to go F themselves? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know what state it was, but I know
Missouri. I know Missouri said that they weren't going to comply with the ATF for the new ban anyway.
A couple states
have, just because it's unconstitutional. But one thing I think people need to understand is when you're looking at these bans. Go back to the bump stock, a couple of years ago under the Trump administration.
Oh my God! That was in the wake of Vegas, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's not about the bump stock. People go, oh well, bump stocks are stupid. Blah 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 blah. We don't need to use those anyways. Da, 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 da. It's not about that. It's about the fact that the ATF, a bureaucratic, organization who has no power to make laws. Congress makes the laws. That's their whole purpose. They just want to see how far they can basically push the envelope and take things from you. Because if they can overnight go, oh, well, I don't like this anymore, so we're going to take it away from you, and if you, go up against us, we're going to put you in jail with a warrant. That's basically pushing the envelope, and most Americans, they don't want to go to jail. Most Americans will probably just say, well, I have a family, I don't want to, get a lawyer, super expensive, upwards of tens of thousands of dollars once you actually get in court, even if you have a good one. It's not about that. And that's kind of what we're seeing now with the FRT trigger situation that we're going to dive into in a little bit, how it's a completely legal device and it completely constitutionally, valid because it's not, it's not more than one.
It's not a machine gun.
It's not a single pull of the trigger, aka forced reset. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. So point being is they're just trying to see how far they can go because no one's calling them on their BS, and
they're changing their own definitions. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
Well, and here's the other thing that's the other thing too, right? So I remember when Las Vegas happened, as horrible as it was, I just remember I had two really big questions at least for me, that kind of sprung up about it. One, how did that guy get all of those guns up into his hotel room with nobody raising a red flag? And two, what was a bump stock? I personally speaking, I had no idea what bump stocks were back in 2017, whenever it happened. So when this whole kind of charade happened, I'm like, all right, we need to be very careful here because this is as you would say, Matt, pushing the envelope. To me, it's goalpost shifting. I mean, you're basically moving this down the line to the point of how far can we do it, before we actually have to backtrack. And I think that's really kind of what you're seeing now with the whole pistol brace situation. Really is the fact that so many of these things are in circulation and so many people use them. Do you really want to try to arrest 40 million people for owning these things?
Well, dude, that's something that they brought up. They were specific, the 5-minute allotted question time for each congressperson. Dude, there were quite a few people on the Republican side, obviously saying, how are you going to enforce this? Dettelbach just kind of steps around the question and will say, hey, well, we're kind of hoping that the American citizens do their due diligence and follow these laws. Well, it's like, well, what if they don't? What if someone doesn't know? What if someone doesn't hear about it and they still have these? What the fuck? Are they going to make them into a felon overnight? Right? And, they're dancing around that question the entire time. and it's just, dude, it's a mess. You can't get a straight answer out of the guy. It's horrible.
Well, and you know what the funny thing is when like people love to talk about like this whole idea that like gun control, or in this case self defense and weapons control, is a new thing. It's not. And actually, my personal favorite example to use is the Roman Republic, because after Rome gets rid of its king and they go to this republican style system, they're almost paranoid about somebody having far too much power. So in the early days of the Roman Republic, it was illegal to carry weapons within the confines of the city. It was illegal for the city to have a police force or any sort of, security whatsoever. The idea being that if it were, somebody could take control of it and then use it as their own private strong arm, kind of like, say, the Gold Cloaks in Game of Thrones, the city watch. So what happens, though, is you have this entire, section of people, thugs, petty thieves, your typical criminals who are smuggling clubs, knives, spears, insert whatever here into the city, and it's just causing absolute chaos. So the Romans actually have to go back and revise their laws to the point that says, all right, we're basically creating a proto-Praetorian guard to act as our security forces here, and and now, granted, back then the idea of being a Roman citizen is different from ours, but the point being is that Roman citizens living within the confines of the city could carry their own weapons for their own private protection because this problem was becoming so acutely bad. And then, of course, you get Julius Caesar getting stabbed. But, oh well. Crazy, crazy times in Rome. But I think the point still stands that, like, even in the idea where you're trying to be as good intention as possible about this, of keeping, these things out of the hands of people who want to commit wrongdoings, they're still going to get them. And they're not going to voluntarily turn them over anyway. That's the thing. 95% of gun buybacks are usually people who either found these weapons and turned them in, or these weapons were stolen, they're being turned in, used for profit to buy other weapons. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing with the whole pistol brace ruling, right? Is functionally, what's a pistol brace made for, right? A disabled veteran. That was the original intended purpose. It wraps around their arm. It lets them shoot that pistol, accurately and whatnot. But here's the thing. Functionally, dude, a pistol brace and a regular stock, right? Something that, I think it was the congresswoman from New York, right?
No, it's the guy. You're going to miss. He's like, turns it into a bump stock?
No, but I do know what you're talking about. But there was the congresswoman from New York. I forgot her name. Completely senile, it seems like. Horrible. I hope she hears it almost. But she keeps on rambling on about how this pistol brace makes the gun more deadly and more effective. Well, it's like, no, it doesn't, because I can take that pistol brace off and that fucking buffer tube is still there, right? That gun is still going to function, right? Functionally, what is the difference between a pistol brace making it more lethal and more effective than, say, a regular stock or something that's fixed, right? There isn't one. So they're trying to put these pistol braces out to be the bad guy, and like the culprit of the crimes that are getting committed. They reference a lot of these shootings. And they're almost making it seem like the pistol brace is what makes it so effective and so lethal in their opinion, right? But it's ass backwards, right? It makes zero sense, because in my opinion, actually probably in most people's opinion, and if you even just look at it, son of a bitch, it's a piece of plastic, or whatever it's made out of, right? Functionally, there is no difference.
I think it comes from, and this is the thing that really bothers me about 95% of people who are on like the anti-gun side of things, is they don't know what they're talking about. Going back to that other guy from New York who's like, you put this brace on, it's on this buffer tube, and now it acts as a bump stock. I was fuming at that clip because no, it doesn't. That tube is where the buffer and recoil spring goes. If you take it off or take the spring out, the gun won't function. The bolt will go back because its piston system will drive it. It will fire one round and it will just go straight back and probably get shot out the back end of the gun because there's nothing buffering the recoil
piston
impulse
system.
to send the
We're
bolt.
talking about like an HMK 416 now, or what?
But
I know what you're
my
saying.
point is, it boggles my mind that the very people who were trusting to write laws and pass legislation and represent us on such a very hot button topic have no clue remotely what they're talking about. Like I guarantee you, if I were to go to Congress tomorrow and I were to give them an AR-15 or an AK-47 and I asked them to disassemble it for me and tell me what each part does, not a single one of them could do it. I guarantee you. The only ones who could are any sort of one who has shooting experience or military training. Yeah. But the rest of them, I guarantee you they wouldn't be able to do it right.
And dude, Tommy, that's something that it bugs me. It honestly upsets me that, we're having these people sit up on the stand, right, making these laws and whatnot, doing these hearings for the ATF with Dettelbach and whatnot, and they don't have a clue about any of the shit that's going on. Functionally, how anything works, what their own laws even are, right? Half of the time, they're making all these crazy laws, like this is something that they call Dettelbach out for, right? Is, they're trying to regulate all these weapons, get them, in the system and whatnot, so we can protect them from being stolen and shit like that. Well, how many guns has the ATF lost? And, how many firearms has been stolen from the ATF, dude? More than I can count, because I forgot what what the situation was. But dude, the ATF has lost track of so many weapons that it's disgusting that they're trying to regulate them at this point, right?
When Eric Holder was the Attorney General of the United States under Obama, do you know what I'm talking about? They basically smuggled guns to the cartels.
Yes. You
know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
What was it called? Like it was Operation something. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, you mean to tell me the very people who are smuggling tens of thousands of pounds of fentanyl and other stuff across our southern border were armed by a former administration of the United States government? Now, it wouldn't be the first time the United States gave weapons to people.
It ain't the first time, dude. We learned that lesson.
I'm just saying, though, like, you mean to tell me that these guns are a problem and they need to be taken away, yet your backers and your party and your prior administrations already gave similar, if not worse and more effective firearms to the very people we're trying to stop from committing these certain crimes.
Yeah.
Operation Fast and Furious is what it was.
Fast and Furious 11.
Yeah.
Part 3 of the finale. The power.
It was Operation
I don't need
Fast
weapons.
I remembered that too.
Yeah,
I just had to look it up.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it is.
All right, so, and I feel like we've gotten very sidetracked by all of this, but I really want to get into the Lightning Link cards real quick because.
Oh, you mean this?
Okay.
No,
because here's the thing. We all three of us sitting here can agree. We knew what these guys were doing, that they were poking the bear, pushing the envelope with how far they can get. It's very obvious that's what they were doing.
They're poking a snake with a stick, dude. That's what they're doing,
How? Matt, I'll be sure to send you a picture of this so we have it to show people what we're talking about. But for those who don't know, the Lightning Link, and Garrett, you can help me out here, is basically this upgrade that you could drop into an AR trigger system, similar to back in the day how people would, take a modified coat hanger and put it in your, without drilling the third pinhole effectively, in order to make the gun shoot beyond semi-automatic. Well, so what these guys were doing is they have this card that had the two pieces of the Lightning Link, traced, and that's
etched. It was etched onto it.
It was etched onto it because the ATF is trying to make it out to be like it's some sort of steel model piece kit that you could just push it out of the car.
Well, that's something we should get into because that's been done in the past. That's why it's such a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Whereas these guys, and I'm pretty sure if I remember reading this correctly, the ATF representative who testified at one of these, because it's two of them, two guys got arrested and are probably going to go to jail over this for
120 years combined.
120
Yeah, one of them's facing the majority of it, and then the other guy who is his accomplice
No,
isn't facing as much.
It's 100. It's like 145 or 150 years combined because the one guy got off light and he got like 45 years.
Yep.
And the main
got off light. He got off light for sure.
Got off light quotations. But the gun tuber got like 100 years.
CSR Firearms, look him up.
Yeah,
cool guy.
Yep.
So what happens is the ATF guy goes to testify at trial. And he's like, so it took us 45 minutes to an hour to drummel this thing out of the card. And then an additional amount of time to actually get it shaped and properly fitted into the gun to where it would actually function as intended. If you mean to tell me that a minimum of 2 hours of work for a team of guys who are more adept at, hand fitting and crafting and tool making for stuff like this, if it took them that long to convert it into what it was supposed to be as a machine gun, how long is it going to take like an uneducated guy or just, Bubba with his Dremel trying to drill the darn thing out? Like, seriously? That's easy accessibility.
Well, you know how he got caught, or quote unquote caught, right? Or
Dude,
how
he
they
was
found out
selling
about
them.
this.
Yeah.
Well, wait. So
Of course he got caught.
He went to the bank and was trying to withdraw from the bank his money, too much money from the bank, and that's how this all got started, and the federal investigation got started, and then the ATF got involved.
The idea that the bank is going to red flag me because I withdraw too much money
Of my own money.
Yeah. Am I the only one who sees the problem with this?
Really?
Like, hold on.
But that's how it all got started, though. So
Yeah.
That's true.
Also
That's
keep
true.
in mind
That is a good point,
this is a Florida man, so
I mean, aside from the ridiculous of that, where I'm kind of going with this though is like let's stop and think about though and the guys, we're doing this on a computer. We live in an era of technology where we have more access to information than at any other point in human history, right? Like this is like I think my personal favorite example to use of like how technology has changed and evolved things is look at the difference between early like say not what the hell's the term I'm looking for, like early Christian reformers or offshoots versus Martin Luther with the printing press, right? Like you had plenty of guys who came before Luther, but all of them were squashed out because they couldn't spread their information, they couldn't spread their message. Martin Luther was able to have his 95 Theses reprinted millions of times over because of the invention of the printing press. And that was in the 16th century. Come nowadays where I can use this and send, a coded message or blueprints 5,000 miles across the world in the snap of a finger. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that these lightning links couldn't easily be accessed online, which, by the way, they can.
Dude, all you gotta do is look it up. It's the fucking first thing that comes up on Google.
Didn't the Boston bombers use crockpot bombs they learned how to make off YouTube from Al Qaeda and Islamic State videos? Like, come on.
Yes.
The amount of information that is available to people is ridiculous. And again, I'm not saying that. I'm of the opinion that these guys definitely kind of needed to be careful because we all know what they were doing. They were poking that stick. However, the amount of information that is online and easily accessible, like I can go on the internet right now and find the schematics for a Ludi submachine gun if I wanted to. And that in and of itself is an actual full-bred, fully constructed submachine gun. It's not perfect, but it is.
But it will work.
It will work.
Tommy, I mean, dude, anyone has... The amount of information you have at your fingertips it's unreal. I mean, between schematics, between dimensions and shit like that, dude, 3D printing is awesome, right? I have a bunch of files for receivers and stuff like that. That's perfectly legal, right? If you do it right? Don't get me wrong, if you do it right. But yeah, dude, the amount of information is crazy. And the fact that, these lightning links were getting etched onto cards as a design, obviously still poking the bear, but... the whole Dremel tool thing. In the past, people have been able to punch them out of cards, connect the two pieces of metal and, kind of insert it into their trigger, right? That's functionally how it works. It basically acts as like an auto sear. Take the disconnector away. Once you put a lightning link in there is no semi-auto versus full auto. It is just full auto. There's no selector switch for it. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy what's happening to those dudes. 140 something years combined for, etching a design onto a card is pretty crazy, and I know there's a lot.
Let me ask you this though. How is it any different than those schematic T-shirts that break down all the parts of an AK or an STG or an MP40?
Because it doesn't make it more scary, Tommy. That's what it comes down to, dude. I'm telling you.
I mean, but like
because
that's just
it's not
it.
a
Like,
machine gun, dude. No.
To any person who's got like say now granted you need the right lathes and jigs and whatnot to actually do this, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for someone to basically use a t-shirt with schematics on them, their at-home drill press lathes and soldering irons to manufacture a very crude but functional version of some of those guns. And to me, that's really what this boiled down to. It boils down to freedom. It's information. That's all it is. Because again, like you can go out and find so much of this stuff online, and not even on the dark web. Like it's just on Google.
Yeah, it's Brandon Herrera showed the schematics for it in one of his videos. So it shows you, how easy the information is to get and what you can actually even show. I mean, you can show it.
It's just crazy.
Don't fucking sell it. So
apparently not.
Yeah.
But like that's just it though. Like where do you draw the line, right? Because like everybody's been getting into arguments over the last couple of years now about like access of information and banning books and parents' rights, this, that, and the other. But seriously, where do you draw the line and how much information is too much information? Like seriously, like if your entire argument for something of why you can't have it rest on the necessity to ban access to it and the ability to know how to make it, that really starts getting into a lot because that's like look at what happened to the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. That gun was manufactured entirely at home in a country where it's nigh impossible to get firearms. He made his own black powder.
Yeah.
Like that's the extremes to which somebody went to manufacture a firearm, and it worked. I mean, the parts alone, the pieces alone were less than $100, and all you have to do is go online or watch any chemistry video ever to be like, oh, I need sulfur, nitrate, and charcoal, and that's how you make black powder.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's very easy.
I mean, hell, even in the United States, when you can get access to things like fireworks and tannerite that you can use as substitutions for
you're not going to be able to use tannerite or anything like that in the place of black powder because that has to have like a certain velocity projectmore to actually get that thing going.
That's
right?
true, but you know where I'm going with this.
Yes,
the ability to get access to some even more extreme propellants, if you will, it's just.
Well, dude, that's why they had to ban. I don't know if they officially banned it, but that's why they had to get rid of. You know what stump remover is? Stump remover from like Home Depot and Lowe's and shit, dude. People were going in and buying stump remover for I think it was it potassium nitrate in there?
Yes.
Something that went boom, right? And people obviously because you're getting these big tree stumps out of the ground, it has to. Well, people are buying this shit and like separating all the potassium nitrate out. And there you go, right? Dude, it's in like your everyday household products at this point. If you really look.
And if you don't buy into that argument, let's go one step further. I know this is going to seem kind of cheesy making this reference, but go back to the scene in Breaking Bad where Walter White's talking about the Gustav gun and he's making his own thermite. Yeah. Any chemistry professor or teacher, especially in places like high schools and universities, have the chemical understanding of how to make that stuff.
Absolutely they do.
And all you need to do is upset or piss off the wrong guy, pay him money, and he'd probably do it for you.
You see, this is not.
I am the danger, Skyler.
Boo boo.
I am not in danger. I am the danger.
The danger.
I am
one of Bryan Cranston's.
Without a warrant, of course. But
yeah, no, but Tommy, you made a good point on where drawing the line of information, right? And that's one thing, dude. That's one thing that's changing. Is constantly again with the whole pistol brace thing, right? I keep on bringing that up, but it's a prime example. The whole wide open trigger, the FRTs and stuff like that. The line just keeps on getting farther and farther away, right? Because people are getting, more frightened as this cool shit comes out, or something that helps a disabled veteran shoot his pistol better, right? That has no functional difference, but since, in their opinion, it's more of a scary factor, or whatever the hell their reasoning may be, they keep on trying to push that line, right? Until there's going to be no line to push.
So, but that raises raises something that's always really bugged me about this whole argument, right? Is the same people who tell you we don't need weapons of war in our streets. A lot of them are the same people who are, they call for defunding the police, defunding the military-industrial complex, this, that, and the other. But my problem with all of that is if your entire argument rests on keeping guns out of the hands of everybody, but you don't trust the very people whose job it is to go and take those guns away.
How are you going to do it?
How do you enforce any of that? Because you can't have it both ways. Either you have to have the NKVD or the NKVD is bad. Right? Like there is no I've never seen this, and that whole the logic doesn't make any sense to me because like no either people are just that naive, which I don't think they are, or they're I don't know. I really don't know how else to explain it because like I get it. Gun violence is a terrible thing, and the United States could definitely do better in certain places to ensure that crazy people don't get pushed over the edge or get access to a firearm to go and shoot someplace up. Like, I mean, it's plain and simple. I don't think there's any argument about that needs to be made.
The real problem in America is a fucking mental health crisis problem. That's the real problem, right? But I don't know.
Well, yeah, because no matter what you're doing, or no matter what they are doing, like them stealing a firearm from their family member, that's already illegal. On top of the parent for being like, negligent in keeping their firearm securely stored, but two, they're literally stealing a firearm that does not belong to them. So,
well, I would like to just point out also
someone that wants to do it will do it no matter what.
Well, and I would like to point out for the record here too is you look at not damn it. Well, what was the one in Connecticut? Not Parkland, not
I know.
Newtown. Look at
yes.
look at the Newtown shooting. That nutcase went to his mother's house where he knew there were guns, killed her in cold blood, shattered the case open, and stole them. Like, really?
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a mental health crisis, and that's what people don't get. But that's a huge tangent we could go off on, boys.
The only singular way you stop that from happening is making sure that guy was locked up in a loony bin. But then again, he escapes, goes to his mom's house, kills her in cold blood, takes the guns, goes to Newtown, and commits a horrible atrocity. Yeah. There is no one right answer, but the idea of living in a world where only the rich and powerful have access to the very things that everyday Americans have access to is a very, very scary thing to me. It always has been. And it's always bugged me, too, because, like, forever, for thousands upon thousands of years, the very notion of defending yourself has always existed. Whether you were a citizen soldier of the Athenian army, or you were a proud Spartiate or a Periakoi in the Spartan military. Even in societies that had professional armies, there was still this very notion of the armed populace being there to either supplement the army or, fight against the army if push came to shove. Because, and again, I'm going to go back to Rome on this one, the idea of a professional army scared Rome for the very thing that happened throughout the entire history of its empire. Soldiers would become loyal to generals. The generals would then start fighting amongst themselves in bloody civil wars. One would win and one would take power. Yeah. That's the very reason why Rome never went to a professional military until the Marian reforms of the 2nd century. Was they were horrified of what actually could happen. Because they weren't dumb. Macedon had already existed. They knew there were societies that had permanent standing armies. But they didn't want it because they knew what would become of it.
Yeah. I think it comes down to, just in general, is I make the rules for thee, but not for me. All those higher-ups in power, they're going to be the first ones who are protected by weapons, but they want to take away the ability for us to have them, whatever, put parts on them, whatever the hell they want to do.
I think the biggest thing is just how well they've pitted the American people against each other. And I was having a conversation with somebody just online, and they were doing all the basic buzzword stuff like no American should own an assault weapon, this, that, and the third. And we drilled down on what did that mean specifically, and he really couldn't give me an answer. But one of the things, because he goes, "Do you have an AR-15?" I was like, "I do." He's like, "Why do you need that? Don't you have a handgun?" I was like, "I also do." They're used in different applications for self-defense. So legality aside, I can add in the part after where you get arrested after you shoot somebody in your own home. But say, 3 a.m., you live by yourself or you live with just your wife and 3 guys break into your house. You don't know if they're armed. You don't know if they're carrying any plates on them. You don't know what they're about. You don't know what kind of weapons they have.
They're in your house.
You have to make that split.
Regardless.
Right. They're in your house. If you're in a standing ground state like Arizona, you have to make a split decision, It's you or them. And you have to be, one, in fear for your life because obviously there's 3 random dudes breaking into your home. What if they have weapons too? What if their intent is to kill you or, maim your wife or do anything, horrendous to them? But a pistol might not cut it. Especially, what if they're on a substance? You want something with more stopping power. a 5.56 is one of the most common rounds used in America, especially green tipped AR 5.56. But yeah. So
I'll go through a couple.
You want something that you know is going to get the job done, not to annihilate them off the face of the planet like a 450 Bushmaster, but to,
no.
Just,
yes,
just
450 Bushmaster, Matthew.
Just to put
I'm more
them,
of a fan of
just to put them out of
Castle.
just to put them out of the category of an active threat. That way, you have time to call the police, and if they are still alive, apply first aid, but make sure they're still restrained so they can't hurt anybody.
Wait, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're good.
So my big point was there's different applications for that. A pistol is really great for when you're traveling and you have your CCW with you, of course, and you're just on the road, someone tries to mug you. Or it's even good for some home defense applications if you are most comfortable with using a pistol. But it's really up to the preference of the person defending themselves, because you should never be not armed in that kind of situation. Because at the end of the day, even those people that don't want a firearm or they hate firearms, it's going to be you or them. And if you were going to bludgeon somebody to death with a bat instead of a gun, that's really not more humane either. You're going to cause blunt force trauma to their head, possibly
Also,
make them go through a whole...
You know what happens when a bat shatters a human skull? Seriously?
Watching Glorious Bastards.
So my whole point is there are plenty of applications for when you could use a gun, and obviously we could dive into the legality part of, you're going to be arrested afterwards, and you're going to face the anti-gunner defense attorney. Yep, at the very least.
And whoever you shoot, their family's going to sue you for millions of dollars because he ain't did nothing wrong. No. He was in your house, but he didn't do anything wrong. So, yeah.
He held a crowbar over your wife, but he ain't do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
It was a nice crowbar.
Now for me, this is the argument that I try to make all the time. Like, I'm gonna try to word this as best I can. If you want to be a pacifist, peace, love, whatever, fine. That's your prerogative. The problem you have with that entire mentality is there are plenty of people in this world, as we are human and we are far from perfect and incapable of living with one another, who choose to laugh at that and will choose to ignore that and use you as an easy option. My favorite historical example of mine that I love to use in this situation is I came across reading the book Guns, Germs, and Steel. And the author was talking about the rise of the Maori in New Zealand and around near Australia and the South Pacific. Well, one of the stories he brings up is there was this small island, I think about 150 miles to the north of New Zealand, that the Maori actually found and invaded. And what happened is the Maori were these big, hulking, warrior-like men. They had clubs made of jade and shark teeth and all of these different brutal weapons of war, where the people of this island were, 100, maybe 200 people at the most. They had some light spears, maybe some bows, but they were very, very peaceful and calm, but they were just absolutely annihilated because the Maori saw an island, they wanted the island, they wanted what was on the island, and they went and took what was on the island. And the only fault of the people that they attacked was the fact that they didn't have the necessity or the belief in, need of a violent response to protect themselves. Because some tried, they weren't successful because, they were a peace-loving culture, they had no belief in the use of violence. Well, the Maori did, and the Maori used violence. So that's, to me, what it really boils down to is you don't have to be a lover of violence to believe in defending yourself accordingly. And I think that is a message that a lot more people should get behind, because the people who are willing to commit acts and heinous acts of violence and atrocities are going to do it regardless. They're just going to go after the ones who don't want to do that first because they're easy to pick on.
They go after the sheep. That's all they do. Because it's easy pickings, dude. Here's the thing. We can bring that whole self-defense situation back to what we were talking about with the legality and what the ATF is trying to do with those pistol braces. Because someone breaks into a disabled veteran's house, or just someone who's disabled in general, right? They take these pistol braces away, or whatever the hell that they're going to do with them at this point. They're actively taking away that person's right to defense and their capability to successfully and capably use that weapon in defense of their own life, right? So that's something that senators were bringing up. Congress people were bringing up, is that, hey, this isn't just an attack on pistol braces in general. This is an attack on disabled veterans. This is an attack on disabled citizens, because it's actively taking away their right to functionally use their gun, right?
Yep.
So, but I mean, that whole legal aspect of self-defense is something that we could go on forever about, boys.
no, yet I mean, thousands of years of arguing
Bottom
about
bottom line is, dude, if someone's in your house, I say fuck it, man. They're asking for it, but that's my opinion. Obviously, it's not always that simple, right?
Look, I'd like to think of myself as a pretty even to the middle of the road guy on a lot of things, and I have never once, seriously advocated for constant violence or aggression or anything. I am a firm believer, however, in that you need to carry a big stick. Violence should always be the matter of last resort.
You need to be ready for it. That's you have to be prepared.
It kind of makes me think of the quote from JFK from the Call of Duty Zombies trailer where it's like, "Gentlemen, in times like these, our ability to retaliate must be fast and brutal." And he knocks on the wall. There's an entire arsenal inside the wall of the Pentagon. Yeah. "Gentlemen, lock and load." But I think there's actually some truth. I think there's some truth to that, though. Like you said, being prepared. Like the idea that, again, you can always want peace and never want to have to act violently in any situation that you ever come across. But if the time ever arises, I think you should be prepared to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could go off on a whole tangent of that, but we need to talk about FRTs and WOTs, my friend.
Oh my God! Okay. Especially now that the
time
ATF
has come.
Is actually
the time has come.
Especially now that the ATF is actually going door to door. And for those who are
aren't they?
Matt, I think you should actually drop a link.
I
think you should put a link in the description of the video on this and I'll send it to you once I find it. Back in March of this year, the ATF put out their, it's called like a letter on FRTs or whatever. Garrett, I said it.
Turn them in, destroy them, whatever the hell they're saying to do with them. You can't have them because we decided so. That's what it is.
Exactly. That's their whole stance. And again, because I'm pretty sure this doesn't include things like the Fostech Echo 2 because
binary.
That actually is a release. Yeah, it's a binary trigger. But and Garrett, I'm going to turn this over to you because I feel like I'm not going to get the language right. So can you just briefly explain what a forced reset trigger actually does?
Yeah. So what a forced reset trigger, FRT, a WOT, which is a wide open trigger. Same thing, different brand, Big Daddy Unlimited versus, what is it? Who's the manufacturer of the FRT? Forgot. Regardless.
I couldn't tell you. It's
regardless. So they're making these drop-in trigger systems, right? You guys have heard me talk about drop-ins before. Super easy to put in. It's packaged in some sort of like aerospace aluminum housing. The hammer's there, the trigger's there. It's all in one housing that you just drop into your receiver. You pin it in. You're solid, right?
Rare breed.
Yes, rare breed. Rare breed. They make some pretty cool stuff. A little wonky with some of the Spartan stuff and whatnot that I wouldn't put on my weapons. But regardless, they made this drop-in trigger called the forced reset trigger. So for people who functionally don't know how a trigger works, right? You hit that break point, round shoots. The moment you let off of that trigger, it's going to reset. That disconnector and everything is all going to reset, ready for your next round, right? Semi-automatic. Well, what a full auto trigger does is it has the auto sear, you hold it back, and that disconnector automatically goes back and forth. You shoot your rounds, right? So this FRT is calling it a hybrid, a good way to put it, Tommy. Because in a way, it is.
It's more like it's a hybrid or a middle of the road.
It is middle
because it's not a full. And actually, this kind of goes back to a great point. And for those who are kind of not following this, the whole reason why these come about is because auto sears are illegal. So necessity being the mother of all invention, people are trying to find legal workarounds
to shoot fast.
Have a little bit. Exactly. They're trying to find ways to, just increase volume of fire, have fun without actually either being a felon or paying a lot of money to do so and buying a Class 3. So that's where you get things like the Echo 2, these new FRTs, things like that, where they have developed mechanically, and it's a really cool system, a workaround to a full auto sear, but it's not a full auto sear.
So what this system is, the wide open trigger versus the forced reset trigger, obviously same thing, is it looks like a standard drop-in trigger, right? It has that entire housing, but on the back of it, you'll see, I can't compare it to an auto sear because it's not an auto sear. It almost acts like one in a way to where it interacts with the bolt that goes back and forth. You still have to have like an M16 cut bolt and everything like that, which most ARs come standard in anyways. But as that bolt is going back and forth it's reciprocating and whatnot. It pushes forward on a certain piece that's been connected to the back of the trigger, right? It's all one piece, and it forcefully resets your trigger for you, right? So it takes away the depression of the trigger to where if you're running full auto, that trigger stays back, right?
Yep.
A single pull of the trigger is by definition, full auto in the ATF's mind, right? If you can disperse more than one round, and a single pull of the trigger, full auto. Right, and that's one thing that they're trying to actively change is that definition. But what the force reset does is that bolt basically smacks a piece of it back and forces you to reset the trigger. So in a way, it's just making your finger move faster. Because if you put, a small amount of force pulling back on that trigger as it's resetting, you're going to counteract that, and you're basically just shooting extremely fast. But your trigger resets every time, right? It's the interaction of the bolt and what's on the back of that trigger housing that makes you forcefully reset your trigger. Does that make sense? I hope I explained that right. It's in all honesty, it's a very complicated system.
It is,
like looking
but
at
which it is a one round.
It is a single pull the trigger.
It's just the fact of can you pull your finger back hard enough,
exactly,
and let it rip basically.
Your bolt resets your trigger for you.
Yeah.
But what the really funny thing is this is not the first iteration of a trigger system like this. In fact, about 100 years ago, there was a company that was called, and I love this so much, I'm not going to try to quote the Danish pronunciation, but they were called the Recoil Rifle Syndicate. They were the producers of what's called the Madsen, which was kind of a hybrid of a semi-automatic and a light machine gun during the early part of the 20th century. And these guns were made all the way into the 70s. In fact, some places still use them. But what was really cool about a lot of early Madsens is they just had one trigger, but the best way I can describe it is it was like almost a multi-stage trigger where you pull the trigger once, hit a certain brake, and that would be single action or semi-auto. But if you pulled all the way back, it kind of does what the forced reset trigger did and tipped the lever and caught the sear, so it could then be fully automatic. It's not the same system, but these forced reset triggers make me think of a system like that where people were coming up with, ingenious solutions to these trigger problems.
Oh, it's an ingenious solution. I'll tell you that. I'm sure both of you have seen videos on those FRTs. Holy shit, dude.
I was watching.
They are so fast. They are so fast. Right? I was that close. I had it in my shopping cart and everything when they first came out because I saw them right as they come out, and I was like, dude, this thing is crazy, right? But the rate of fire that those FRTs make is quite insane, right? It's moving. Anyone who doesn't know what it is, look up force reset trigger, and you'll see how fast they can move. But the bottom line is, the ATF is going after these force reset triggers and these wide open triggers because they're scared of how fast you can shoot, right? Here's the thing. Look at Jerry Michalek. Look at Lena Michalek, right? I know you two know those names, right? He's the fastest shooter in the world, one of them, right?
Yep.
But, fuck me, man. That guy's finger can outrun an FRT. I'm serious. It can. I've seen him do it.
He's a lethal weapon.
Yeah, dude, and here's the thing. Why is the ATF not classifying his finger as fully automatic, right? Because of the rate that he can shoot, right? Functionally, dude, there's no difference between what he's doing and what that FRT's doing. It's a single pull of the trigger every single time. It's the rate of fire that they're scared about. That's what it is.
Or what's the difference of putting in a very light trigger pull system into your AR or having something like an M1 Garand where you just stick your finger maybe in like a thicker glove so you have more surface area and just putting the gun down at your hip and
use the inertia, dude.
Of the gun,
bump fire it.
It's still the same principle. And where I draw a problem with this, again, is if you go look up the legal definition of a machine gun pursuant to U.S. statute, it basically falls under that semi-auto is classified as one trigger pull equals one round fired, whereas full auto is depressing the trigger drops the sear out of the path of the bolt, meaning that for as long as you hold it down, the bolt will continue to cycle and dump rounds so long as there is ammunition in the gun.
Yep.
The ATF is mad that a very smart engineer at a firearms company has developed a workaround, almost a middle ground to this definition, and the ATF is upset that people are now getting access to these things. And where I really draw a problem with this is now you're going after you're actually going after more people in the upper class. Because think about it like this. These drop-in triggers are not cheap. Fostech Echo 2s are $450. I don't know what the FRTs are.
It was like $350 to $400.
Yeah, I mean, you're
well
paying
worth it in my mind.
You're paying a lot, and I mean a substantial amount of money for this upgrade that not a lot of people are willing to go out and buy, let alone afford, especially with how things are going right now. So you're going after a very niche product that really, as it stands right now, doesn't pose any sort of a threat to anything because only so few people can get them.
You can't get them anymore. I just looked on their website, dude. You can't get them. They took them off.
Of course not.
Well, here's the thing. I think it was April. Was it in April? It was either March or April of this year, 2023, where they fully classified them as functioning fully auto. So you legally cannot get them. Which is a little ridiculous because all the people that did get them, they're going to get their doors knocked on. They're going to have, agents coming and trying to confiscate these items, which in my opinion is going to create some big problems because one, now you're diving into, them accessing information on purchase records and shit like that, to where they know who. Yeah, exactly.
Not without a warrant.
Exactly.
But
they're going to do it.
It is now.
The information is supposed to be purged. The ATF is not supposed to be looking at basically where you live.
I guarantee you they will.
They can tie it back to the FFL like we were saying earlier, but I mean I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but they have we have multiple videos of like ATF agents taking pictures of information from just U.S. citizens, just trying to get their addresses and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
It reminds me, though, and I don't know I think this was in Virginia when it happened, but you guys remember a couple months back, there was a guy who knocked on this dude's door and said he was with the ATF. He was doing a gun check or, like, whatever the hell it was because, he bought something. And the guy's like, sure, hold on, shuts the door.
Oh, dude, he called the cops on him? Yes, dude.
Wasn't it the woman in like Ohio or whatever? Because she thought like it was just someone impersonating the officer or whatever, and so they called the cops, and the guy's like, "I'm a federal agent." He's crying on
they were holding this ATF agent at gunpoint, and that shit was.
But the funny part about that whole encounter is this ATF guy tried to go from big hard badass to whiny little bitch in 3 seconds when he got tased because he was trying to act like he was all cool and shit because they're like, show us your hands. He's like, I'm with the ATF. Show us your hands. He refused to show his badge, refused to give his identification, basically told these officers to go themselves, and then was just absolutely manhandled by the boys.
Dude,
it
was
so funny. It was he got detained. Got detained.
You heard about what she said on the call, right? She's like, "This guy's knocking on my door, claiming to be a federal officer. He's armed. I don't think this is who he says he is." Right,
and
so they're gonna come in
hot.
To
show his badge.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
But like that to me is what really bugs me about all this is the fact that you have, and I'm pretty sure he got terminated because the ATF told him he not to do what he did or whatever, but he just thought he was all high and mighty, like I'm with the ATF, I can get away with this, and these American citizens are just gonna bend the knee. Well, as our beloved graph shows, he fucked around.
And he found out real quick, dude. You know what? Dude, those memes that go online. Anything, when an AR gets banned or, they pass a bill to ban like assault weapons and stuff. All these memes come out on Twitter, Reddit, whatever it is. It's, it's like an agent knocking on your door. It's like, hey, do you have this weapon or item? And it's like, hey, are those plates level 4? It's, you better know where you're knocking on. Anytime something happens, dude, those memes just kill me. But that's the same situation that he was in, dude. That lady called the cops on him because she didn't believe him. And in all honesty, dude, bro, if anyone ever comes knocking on my door like that, I'm gonna call the cops just for fun, just because that dude.
I'm sorry, officer. I lost all my.
I didn't believe him.
I lost all my guns in a boating accident. But you don't have a boat. Yes, there was an accident. What part of that?
Dude, you live in Arizona. Dude, you live in the Arizona desert, man. What do you mean? It's like,
It was a sand speeder.
Yeah, the sand speeder.
Yeah, exactly.
I lost my DL-44 blaster pistol in a speeder accident.
Took my Padres
in the dunes. In the Dune Sea.
Now we were making some. Now, we were making jokes on how we're going to respond to these people, but we got to keep in mind, if they come to your door, all you do you have a warrant? No.
That's all you got to say.
Door shut.
They literally, unless
back with a
they
warrant.
actually provide you with a, like, that's the thing. Like, you have to have
Legally, you have to have a warrant.
One, the ATF needs probable cause. Two,
Yep.
legally, they need a warrant to actually conduct a search. I mean, it just baffles my mind about, like, how much, like, skirting around is going on with some of the stuff. Like, and it makes me feel so uneasy. And then, of course, there's no accountability at the top. Do you guys remember a couple months ago, there was this guy he was a pro-life minister. I forget where he was from, but what happened he got into an altercation with a pro-choice sympathizer outside an abortion clinic. I forget where this happened. But what happened is allegedly one of them struck the other. However, the local and state, and I want to make this categorically clear, the local and state prosecutors of both so the county and state prosecutors of where this guy was from and where this happened refused to prosecute. There were no charges filed, no arrests were made by the local or state police, completely, utterly dropped. A month and a half later, the FBI shows up to this guy's doorstep with 20 armed federal agents, ballistic shields, ARs, Kevlar helmets, and vests, break into his house, hold his family at gunpoint, and arrest him.
For
over
what?
the same crime, over the same alleged crime that the state and local police or state and local prosecutors refused to touch with a 40-foot pole because nothing happened.
Fucking stupid. What? Dude, okay, that's ridiculous. But that goes back to the point of enforcing, these pistol brace rules, these wide open trigger rules, and shit like that, dude. Bro, most states have already said that they're not going to comply with the ATF. Right? Their law enforcement has specifically said that we will not follow these ATF rulings because it is unconstitutional. Who's going to be the people enforcing these rules for pistol braces? Who, for the triggers?
Hell,
Go look at
the state of Illinois. Go look at the state of Illinois. They tried to pass an AR-15 ban, and every major county, discounting Chicago and Springfield, basically said, "Yeah, we're not going to enforce this whatsoever."
You can go to a back alley dumpster in Chicago and find an AR. Bro, what good is that going to do? Nothing. It does nothing. But they're scary, so we have to pass them.
They look scary, yeah, because they're made of black. They're made of black polymer and metal.
There was a really funny tweet. Maybe it was a tweet, but it was someone outside. It was someone outside of the U.S. Dude, I think it was a British person. Ooh, the Brits. And so
Tuesday.
Seriously, I'm not going to shoot you, but I'll stab you. Dude, so they tweeted something about, like ARs versus hunting rifles. That whole debate, right? The Second Amendment's for hunting and stuff like that. But so they, dude, here's what they did.
It was for hunting redcoats.
Exactly. Here's what they did.
Oh boy. Bye.
I know, I'm just going crazy right now. It's okay. Here's what they did. They posted a picture of an M1 Garand and said, hey, why can't we use weapons like this because these are made for hunting? And someone replied, it's like, yeah, dude, those things were made for hunting humans, bro. That is the most effective service rifle in the history of our country, and they had no idea. But it's ignorance.
My great grandfather has about 9 SS.
I was gonna say, dude. And here's the thing: people look at all these hunting rifles and whatnot, or just you can put freaking wood furniture on an AR and they wouldn't know a difference. They're like, oh, it looks less scary, right? That thing must.
Wait, hold on. So does that mean the AK and the VZ58 are excluded because of the wood furniture?
Oh,
I was gonna say I think I have a wood furniture hunting caliber rifle.
Fucking take down a moose with that thing, man. Jeez.
It's not used for it, but it could be.
Yeah, you could. Hypothetically, you could. I wouldn't, but you could. You can take down an elk with that easy. Now, here's the thing. 7.62 by 54R ballistically past, 500 to 700 yards is not...
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, 500 to 700 yards, man. I mean, that's a damn good shot.
But it is very similar. It is very similar to 308.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'll shoot a 308 over a 7.62 by 54R. A lot more flat.
Well,
Yeah.
but like that's why 7.62 by 39 comes out in the first place, is because the Russians are like, okay, we don't need the full power of 54R, and we're not engaging people at ranges long enough to where it's even viable to begin with.
Yeah.
So let's just, oh my god. And I remember I got mad about this in Call of Duty Vanguard until I actually looked it up. So the original name for 7.62 by 39 is like 30 Russian short,
Yeah.
or something like that. It was something stupid. I'm like, never ever again call it that. Oh god, it was horrible. You know, the same game where you could find STG 44s in 1942 Libya.
Yeah. But those pictures, and the people who have no business talking about firearms saying, hey, you know, this gun's made for hunting. Well, yeah, it was made for hunting. It was made for hunting Germans, and, you know, bad. You know, the ignorance is out of this world, and
Well, like that-
some
like that
people
just-
are that ignorant, and they make our laws regarding these firearms just
Well, like that just goes back to it for me.
Yeah.
That just goes back to it for me, right? Like, I will never say you don't have a right to an opinion because X, Y, or Z. That's dumb. You're a human being. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm still allowed to call you a moron.
If you're stupid, you're stupid.
If the opinion you're making is either just bad or ill-informed.
Yeah.
And again, going back to something like guns, it just like you said, it just rips your soul. It really grinds my gears.
You know what grinds my gears? What really grinds my gears is when someone outside of the U.S. tries to talk about it, right? Like it's their problem. Well, it's like, well, look at the U.S. All this bad stuff is happening.
So,
well,
Tommy,
when I walked down an alley in London and I got stabbed, you know, BFD. Like,
Yeah, Tommy, when you sent that text about the Serbians or whatever and the shooting, it's one of the hardest countries to get a gun in Europe. I was just like, I remember having an argument.
So,
I remember having an argument with somebody from there.
Serbia actually had gun laws because, again, Yugoslavia in the 1990s was a scary place. But the thing that bugs me about that whole situation is no one going to talk about the fact that kid stole a gun from his dad and then went to school with also 9 bottles of wine that he turned into Molotov cocktails.
Jesus.
He was going to burn people alive after he ran out of ammo. But we're only focused on the firearms? Really?
Here's the thing. You can use a baseball bat, right? Okay. Let me start over. A moving vehicle kills far more people every single year. If we're looking at how people are trying to ban weapons and stuff like that, whether or not there's someone outside the U.S. talking about it, giving these analogies and whatnot, by the numbers, dude, there is far worse. There is far, far worse. Right.
Look at Mr. Brooks or whatever his name was from Minnesota. He killed 28 people running through a freaking Christmas parade, and then he tried to defend himself.
Are you going to ban that vehicle or shit on the vehicle? No, because when someone does it with the vehicle or whatever else they're using,
No American citizen should have access to an assault truck. That's all. I'm going to say.
Dude, it's an assault truck. You know? Exactly. But here's the thing: when it's an everyday item, right? They don't turn an ear, and it's a person. It's the person's fault.
I promised myself that I would never make this rant on the show, but damn it, I have to.
Oh, God.
Here it comes.
Here we go.
I hate the term assault rifle with a burning passion. Assault rifles are not real. They're just not. For thousands of years, humanity has named weapons for what they are. Matchlocks, flintlocks, fire tubes, because they didn't have a better name for it. Swords, axes,
Trent shovels.
or bolt action rifles, needle rifles. Like, the guns always were designated what they were or what they were for what they were, how they function. Again, a needle fire gun is a bolt action that uses a needle to poke a paper cartridge. A bolt action has a bolt handle, versus something like a wheel lock is a spring-loaded catch on the side that self-ignites the powder, versus that's different from flintlock. Assault rifle was Nazi propaganda because Hitler didn't like the fact that they redesignated the gun he hated machine pistol. Yeah. That's where assault rifle comes from. It comes from Sturmgewehr, storm rifle. It was meant to be scary, and it was Nazi propaganda. But it was done because you want to know what the original designation of it was in 1942? Machine carabiner. Machine carbine.
Yeah.
Anybody who calls it an assault rifle is lying to you because there was only
it's a made-up term,
one.
Buddy.
It is a made-up term. It's
a made-up term to make it sound scarier than it is. right?
Because again, you can't just if I take a bat and hit Garrett in the knee or
It's
the
an
face,
assault bat.
that's an assault bat. Or as Matt said, if I run through
Well, wouldn't
a
it
crowd
be a
of
battery bat?
it would be an assault and battery bat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't assault the threat and the battery is the actual battening of that human?
Also, hell, at least the ballistic knife makes more sense than assault rifle because it actually fires a spring-loaded knife. Like, come
That's
on.
true. Ban ballistic
Like,
knives, 2024, dude. Come on. Have to. Ban baseball bats. Ban assault trucks.
It bugs me because I'm so technical about this. And I remember I actually had this rant one time at college once, and someone looked at me like, "Well, no, AR-15's assault rifle 50." I'm like, "You're dumb.
Wrong.
You're
Wrong. That's wrong. Wrong.
What does AK stand for? Automatic Kalashnikov. Automatic Kalashnikov. I mean, technically now most of them should be called SAKs, semi-automatic Kalashnikov. But it still stands. This term got adopted because people got lazy, and it became ubiquitous for these intermediate cartridge select fire rifles. Because realistically, if I have a K-43 and an STG-44, both shooting 8mm in semi-auto, the differences are going to be nominal depending on, how fast a guy can change a magazine. It's still a gun. It still fires a projectile. I'm over the arguments with it because it bugs me because I hate that term so much. I hate that term almost as much as I hate the term battle rifle. I really do. I much prefer they're DMRs. They're not battle rifles.
Dude,
they're
a
DMRs.
DMR and a battle rifle is the same thing. Let's be honest.
It is the same thing. It is the same thing. So I'm over it.
Regardless, we could go on a huge rant about just that term. The bottom line is, our ATF overlords are trying to take away the things that we love most by changing their own definitions and rolling back on their own rulings. So,
you know what it is? It's like when you play a made-up game with your friends, but you've got that one stickler who ruins it for everybody, who tries to change the rules because he thinks he's being treated unfairly.
That's exactly what it is.
Like, you can't do that. Why? Well, because it makes me feel like it's not fair. So,
Okay.
I'm to care why. I'm to care why.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I could recommend for just people watching the show or just us in general to do is just make sure that you're registered to vote, especially so you're able to access, the primaries, and you can try to elect people that are going to represent you and your values. Because, light up their phone numbers, just give them a call. Tell them that you're a concerned citizen. I know here in Arizona, Kirsten Sinema has kind of taken the independent route because, well, she's a blue senator in a red state, and it might be a battleground state, but Arizonans don't like their gun rights being messed with. So she has been a pretty independent senator for as far as I'm aware. And as long as we can apply, that sort of, pressure to all of our politicians, we're going to see much better results, especially for people like us that are gun hobbyists.
Hey, I mean, look at West Virginia. Manchin's basically about to drop the Democratic flag, too, because he's so sick and tired of watching his state basically be left as a backwater.
Yeah. Well, he got played like a fiddle, though. That's the thing, too.
Everybody knew he was going to get played like a fiddle. He was going to get stabbed in the back the minute he caved. I knew what was coming, and you should have, too. But, I mean...
Joe Manchin,
Matt,
if you're watching this, you're dumb. No, I'm just kidding.
Matt, you know how...
I've been barred from the state of West Virginia.
Oh, no, not West Virginia.
We've been bamboozled.
Not the Greenbrier.
No.
Look, Matt, you know where I stand on a lot of this. I'll say it like this. At the federal level, it does not matter. It does not matter because we live in a system where the states have a lot of power, sometimes on par with that of the federal government. And if a state wants to tell the feds to back off, they will back off. Look at the whole argument with marijuana. I mean, Colorado and Washington were the first two states to go, you know what, this war on drugs is stupid. We're going to legalize it and make more tax revenue. Why? Because screw you, feds. We're sick and tired of all these minor drug charges clogging our court system. And, the same is happening because you've got, what is it now, 33 constitutional carry states?
It's getting close to that.
Something like...
Yeah.
Dude,
there's more by the day, and damn it, I love it.
I know CCW, if you have a CCW just in general, you have access to 38 out of the 50 states right away.
You have a lot of
if you have an
reciprocity.
Arizona one, it depends.
Yes,
right?
if you have an Arizona
'Cause
one.
it's not valid for California. California is the only valid one for that state. So it just depends. It depends between where you get it.
And of course, if you find our content like you don't agree with anything we say, go move to a state where they're going to put stuff in place that you like. I mean, if you really don't like guns, go to California. Go pay that 55% tax rate.
But you're not going to be gun-free in California. I'm just going to let you know that right now because
Wait,
criminals are still going to get them.
LA's not gun free? Shut the hell up. There's no fucking way, dude. What?
No, you can still buy Super Soakers in Target.
But Gavin Newsom told me he banned all the guns.
Oh, dude, what? Come on, man. Come on.
Am I okay? Real quick aside. Am I the only one who hates his jawline as much as Matt Gaetz' jawline?
Yeah,
Oh,
just
God.
don't get me started on Gavin Newsom because I came from that state.
I know, but it's just every time it's like when it's him and Matt Gaetz both. Every time they smile, they bother me. They look like sociopaths. I swear.
Well, if the shoe fits.
I don't know what
Maybe
it
more
is,
like
but they're-
maybe more like animated movie villins. You know?
Yes, actually,
There we
Matt
go.
Gaetz.
Well, you
Yeah,
can like
those
just
Matt's
tell
anime.
straight away. You can just tell straight away that they're lying to you.
Just something about their voice and the general way.
In that chinny chin chin, I swear.
Yeah,
like, dude, like Matt Gaetz has a Minecraft head. It's a literal square. I'm convinced. I'm convinced the developers of Mojang accidentally created a Minecraft Steve in real life, and that Minecraft Steve was Matt Gaetz without a beard.
They are among us, walking around like they are us.
Do, do, do.
So Tommy Garrett, go ahead and give me your final thoughts on the whole. Well, we've kind of wrapping it up, but the FRT, FT, force reset triggers. FRT, yes.
FRTs,
Yes.
pistol braces,
Go-
WOTs,
yeah.
yes.
Go ahead and give me your final opinions on that piece of the puzzle here, because we've settled the lightning link earlier.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
So for me, as somebody who has a great love and admiration for firearms and firearms development specifically, I hate when people try to like step on the necks of those who are trying to innovate. Like, in my opinion, there's nothing dumber that a society can do than stifling innovation in whatever capacity that may be. It really bugs me. And the fact that the FRT is this weird middle ground that the ATF is mad they didn't think about. I can't believe you're actually going to start punishing people for having these. It's so. That's all I'll say to it, really.
For myself, I'll definitely say that kind of what I referenced earlier. These bans and these rule changes, they're not solely about the item at hand. These are just little stepping stones that they're going to take to try to ban more things, and that's why you need to be involved politically. That's why you need to get involved with pro-gun organizations and two-way, loving, people and groups. It's one of the most important things to defend the liberties, because as soon as all these things go by and people don't care and things are going to get banned, well, what's the next step? Would it be your AR-15? And if your AR-15 does get banned one day, they're going to go, well, how did that happen? I couldn't see that coming from a mile away. Well, nobody stopped the ATF. Nobody tried to call them on their crap, and no judge in any circuit wanted to do their job. So that's kind of up to us as, responsible citizens. We need to take action in that regard.
Yeah, they're seeing how far they can push it.
Yep.
How about control? Controlling those items that they see as something scary. When in reality, it's people who are scary. Final thoughts, man. In all honesty, mine's pretty simple. ATF should be made into a convenience store, in my opinion.
It's where I should be able to go to pick up a nice bag of
To
gummy
buy the big three, it's kind of crazy what they do. They're trying to push it more and more every day. At some point, shit, man, they got to be out of reach, right? But we'll see how that happens. But man,
Yep.
it's pretty crazy what's happening and some of the stuff that they're backtracking on, changing. I mean, fuck, they're gonna make 40 million Americans a felon overnight. So that shows you how much your government loves you, right? So, yeah, convenience
exactly.
store, 2024.
Oh, God.
What a great platform.
What a great way to end Convenience Store 2024. Well, if you like today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on audio platform, please be sure to rate us, whatever your platform recommends. If you want to come see the video adaptation, we're both on YouTube and Rumble. But with that being said, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.